welcome back to Blaster Master Zero. We're going through the factory-ish area, so we'll be getting the, thankfully the hover, which makes things a lot easier in traversal.
This is like the first thing you get when you play Blaster Master 2. It's just like, okay, yes, fine, you get the hover now, Jesus. You get it like after the first 10 minutes of gameplay.
Yeah, it's like you can actually move around now. You're welcome.
Yeah. Oh, there we go.
And there it is.
Okay. They never just leave something out there like that. That means there's going to be a boss fight.
Boss. Yep. I mean, he's not wrong, so.
Oh dear.
You know, thinking about it, that is actually something that Metroid kind of did that I feel like a lot of games don't really do. Is a lot of the time in Metroid, they kind of just left stuff out and you could pick it up and there wasn't always like a boss or anything associated with them. It was just like, okay, you found the wave beam, now you can keep going, and there's not always a boss fight attached to it, which is I kind of like that sort of thing personally. Like I don't feel like I need every dungeon in an RPG or every item you get to be attached to a boss whenever I'm playing that kind of game.
Yeah.
Maybe that's just me. But
I get what you're saying. There's something Richard Garriott once said, and I don't 100% agree with his philosophy on boss fights. But he said that boss fights tend to be just enemies that sit there waiting for you to get to them so that they can fight you.
I mean, sort of in a gamey sense, yeah.
Yeah. But you know, his answer to that is to just not have boss fights. My answer to that is to weave boss fights narratively into the game in a more interesting fashion than just having them be at the end of every point in the game where the gameplay determines it should be a climax. Which is basically what's happening when you put a boss in every upgrade location. Like,
also, don't forget this tunnel thing. This is one of the last things I had to find in the game.
Oh yeah, and since he crawls really, really slowly, it takes an hour to get through this whole. Like, why? Why do we have to do that? Shantae.
It's not even for anything good.
Yeah, Shantae also has really, really slow crawling too, and so whenever there's a long passage like that, I'm like, ugh.
It's almost as if crawling is inherently a slow action.
Yeah, I know, but like maybe I'm just spoiled by like Morph Ball or stuff like that. But when you have to go through a long ass corridor like that, I'm always like, ugh.
We've gotten used to video game characters having limitless endurance and uncanny balance to the point where if something is slightly inconvenient, we just speed it up. Like, okay, in Prince of Persia: The Sands of Time, you would have these little narrow balancing ledges, right? You know, as you do. And you would have to move slowly across them and balance on them and all. I guess people didn't like it because in like all subsequent Sands of Time games after a certain point, all subsequent Prince of Persia games I should say, they just gave the prince the uncanny ability to run across balancing ledges with no punishment whatsoever. So it's like, what?
I mean, you can still run, it's just way harder.
I mean, it's... What I mean is, like, in Sands of Time, yeah, you could go a little bit faster, but you would lose balance, so you'd be constantly fluctuating between going fast and slow to regain your balance. In Forgotten Sands or Prince of Persia 2008, maybe the other two Sands of Time games, but I'm not sure, the prince would just sort of dash across it without having to deal with balance at all, and it's like, okay, it's a nice spectacle, but why are these things here? Why do I need to bother with this? It's like you just put...
Hey, it's the second Wily boss in Mega Man 2.
I mean, it's just kind of like you put your normal movement speed on a really narrow rail, and that's it.
I don't know. Maybe they're just there to be there, in the sense that, like, because the thing... I've never played Prince of Persia, so I don't really have the reference point, but I'm kind of reminded of Grind Rails and Sonic, where in Adventure 2 they tried to make it like, okay, you can go faster at the cost of balance.
It's funny that you bring up grind rails in Sonic because in Sands of Time, one of the superpowers you gain as an upgrade is the homing attack. Not
Wait,
not
what?
Sands of Time, Forgotten Sands. I keep mixing those two up because they're so similar. But
How does that work with like a normal person?
You just have the guys just jut through the air and smack him with his face.
well, yeah, that's pretty much what happens. You basically there are these flying enemies that form staircases up to platforms, and you use them to sort of just turn into a massive light and zip toward the enemy and disintegrate them and then rematerialize or something. And
Hey, we got the jump booster. We can do multiple jumps. Except I just got the booster, so what do I need that for?
To jump more and boost more. I don't know.
well, it's jumping
Ooh,
multiple
editing.
times faster.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, this is the one thing you have to backtrack for, which thankfully is kind of on the way because you have to go back to Area 1
yeah.
anyway at this point in the game.
Yeah.
This is the like one of the few things in the game you can't get on your first run through of an area
Yeah.
because you need the hover to get up here.
Yeah, and I think it's just like an energy thing. So it's not a major thing if you decide to skip it.
It seems to me Metroidvanias have a bit of design conflict in this particular area because it's like, oh, the appeal of Metroidvanias is like all the upgrades you can get in the backtracking you can do in other areas to get things you couldn't get before. But then, video gamers don't really like backtracking, do they?
I feel like if you're playing a Metroidvania, you should be okay with a little bit of backtracking. It's like part of the genre, you know.
It's like it's just they kind of try and find this weird middle ground where there's a little bit of backtracking, but so little backtracking that no one really notices it's there.
Yeah, I honestly would if it's a mostly linear game, then I agree. I don't really like backtracking. But if it's a game where exploration is key, I don't mind having to go back to a previous area to find stuff because part of the appeal of going back to a previous area with new stuff is that the area basically feels like a new one because you're seeing all this new stuff in an area you thought you'd cleared out before. You know, that's why
Now entering Area 4.
That's why one of the things I loved about Bloodstained is that you can sweep through some areas 2, 3, 4 times and still not find all the stuff in it. So I personally don't mind it. If backtracking is not an inherent sin, if backtracking is bad if you're going through the area again and you're doing the same exact things the same exact way. And it just feels like you're repeating stuff for the sake of repeating stuff.
That's unfortunately the backtracking in this game.
Yeah, I mean...
because aside from that one thing you found, when they make you go back through the areas again, you're just going through the areas again. If you already got everything, there's nothing to do. You're just going through it.
Yeah, pretty much. At the very least, they do mark stuff on your map, so I think one of the things about Metroidvania backtracking that people don't like is when you found like 95% of the stuff and you're trying to find that last 5% of stuff. And so you have to slowly and methodically search every single room you've already been through before.
So, wait, this lady is the tank, essentially.
Well, she's not the tank. She's like the tanks. She's like your HQ, effectively. She's runs
like
diagnostics on those
She's like that
tanks.
chick from Outlaw Star who like hangs out in a water tank for some reason.
Yeah, basically.
Anime, why do you do this? I mean,
Anime needs to be stopped.
I mean, I know.
No, it's still not as bad as the I forget what it's called, but there's like a show with like sentient ships, like it's the same kind of thing, where they have like the cute anime robot girl thing, like be the ship.
Yeah,
dude, there are blood cell
unfortunately,
waifus nowadays.
I'm not sure.
okay?
I'm not sure if it's the official translation, but at like the end of the first episode, the girl just literally says like "bored me" in subtitles. It's like what?
Yeah,
I get the feeling that someone in Japan was like, okay, why do Americans always refer to their cars and or boats as women? And then they're like, but what if they actually were women?
Hey,
to be fair, that's most anime. What if X was a hot girl?
it's just like, hey, that's a nice stern you got there. Oh, let me see that rudder, baby. Oh yeah. Ooh, are those brand new cannons you have installed? Ooh, 18-pound cannonballs. That's nice. Oh yeah. You just see someone like going around like a normal ass ship, doing that, and that's how people think that you have you have.
There's nothing in there.
Wait, the frog's name is Fred.
Yes.
Yes.
And we just made like a rudder joke about like the vehicle woman having a nice butt. Now I'm just like drawing a connection between this and my earlier tangent about Cockney slang. Okay.
Because Fred from Harry Potter.
No, Uncle Fred and Johnny Rudder means bread and butter. That one.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
I was more getting the Freaky Fred from Courage the Cowardly Dog.
I don't know. It's just my brain was drawing connections between these conversation topics and going a little haywire. I don't know. I don't even think it even formed anything coherent out of it. It just like it was like these things.
That's me every day of my life.
Sure.
I just learned to roll with it.
Surely they connect somehow.
Yeah. And if they
Stop calling me
don't,
Shirley.
then keep on making up crap until it does.
Yeah.
That sounds like a Stephen King novel.
Probably, yeah. Although I'm not a tortured writer with a wife that doesn't want to have sex with me, so I don't know if I could be a Stephen King protagonist.
You also don't. You also. Well, I mean, you do live in New England, but you don't live in Maine.
Yeah, like I guess I would have to move to Maine for the plot of the book to start.
Whoa.
I suppose. Oh yeah, this is one of the more interesting / annoying gimmicks. Because the water will appear and there are certain areas where it gets blocked, but it'll also wipe away enemies and power-ups that you want to reveal. So, it's pretty neat.
Yeah, I noticed that in the other room with the slime that came in to cover the power-ups, and then when you went back, you found out all the power-ups that had been covered up were gone.
Yep. I could take a shortcut. Yeah, this game also has Zelda bombable walls.
Yeah, it's interesting what kind of inspirations this game took stuff from. Like, it is very well made. I just think that I don't imagine myself going back to this one now that the sequel's out. Because it's just better in a lot of small, but they're almost the same game, I guess is the big thing, but the second one's improved. So it's like, why would I go back and play the first one?
You know, it's kind of weird how a lot of older games would mix and match elements in a really nonsensical way just to be experimental. You don't really get that a whole lot now, because like people are pretty sure what they like about particular kind of games, and most games won't stray away from that too much.
Yeah, outside of like indie stuff where
Yeah,
you won't see a lot of stuff trying to be really weird.
I mean,
Just for the
Blaster
sake of
Master here is doing that kind of thing, but that kind of design mindset makes me think more of games like Parasite Eve, where we had like a mix of elements from horror and RPGs all sort of
Yeah,
wrapped up in that. What's the game? Vagrant Story, kind of.
Yeah,
Well, the problem with horror and RPGs is that it's inherently not scary if you have time to sit and think about it.
Yeah, I don't think that you would be able to make a turn-based horror RPG in today's landscape.
It wasn't really turn-based. It was more like a ride.
Yeah, I know, but it was still much slower than your action game.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I wouldn't say that. Resident Evil's pretty slow.
Yeah, but I mean, a lot of horror games benefit from being slow, but they're slow and I'm gonna pull up a menu and decide which spell I want to use.
Yeah,
slow,
yeah.
you
And
know.
you can freeze time to do certain actions, but it's less a horror game and more just an interesting RPG.
I wish I had time to play all of the PS1 random RPG kind of stuff that I would want to. Because, well, not even just PS1, because I want to play, like, the Trails stuff, too, which I know is, like, PC and things like that. But,
Yeah.
you know, like, I'd love to play Legend of Dragoon or Parasite Eve or Vagrant Story or Suikoden or... Oh, the Grandia Collection actually came out on Switch, so I could potentially get into that.
Grandia
somewhat
is so
easier.
good.
The nice thing about the Parasite Eve, at least 1 and 2, they're not terribly long.
Yeah, that's also a good thing because unless if I know the game is excellent and also to my taste. I don't want to play a RPG that's more than like 50 hours these days because my time is limited, and I
Yeah.
don't like, because I've taken a lot of games, like for example, Bot and Kados. I put like 40 hours into that game before deciding I'm done. I don't actually really like this all that much, and putting 40 hours into a game I don't actually really like all that much is depressing. So.
Oh, but
I'd-
if you wait until you get to Grand Pulse, it gets better.
I'm sure it does, Lewis.
I like to think that all the little, never mind, I'll have to wait till they come back on screen because those little storage things look like they had frowny faces on them.
They're so sad because you're about to shoot them and blow them up.
No, the containers, not necessarily these things.
Man, when I saw this
okay.
was a Metroidvania, I thought it was going to be a Metroidvania. But you're spending like 90% of your goddamn time in this slow-moving overhead thing. And it's
I like the overhead parts though. It's closer to like sci-fi Zelda, I suppose, but
I wish I could say I saw the appeal, but as like all I'm seeing when I'm seeing this overhead view is, wow, the character suddenly decided to stop running for some reason.
Yeah, these things look like they have frowny faces on the bottom of them.
well, they're gone, so I can't see. Oh,
No,
oh
these
my
things
God! Oh, they do have frowny faces. Oh my God, they're so sad. Oh, what did you do to them?
They
Oh my
they
God.
look more like angry frowny faces than sad frowny faces.
Yeah. Lewis, I think you might appreciate these a little bit more if you saw footage of the second game, because the second game adds some elements to make these parts more interesting.
A sprint
You have like
button
a counter
maybe.
move.
Well-
No, you do have a dash as one of them.
Yeah, you have a dash, but the dash is also used in specific ways, like you can dash at certain points to do more damage. And you're also using weapons that aren't just the fuck you laser.
It's kind of just like these overhead things do that sort of thing where that some newer games will do, where when you're outside you're running around by default, but then you get inside like a small enclosed shop or something and the game will force you into a walk. And even if you hit the run button, you'll just do a brisk jog instead of sprinting around like you normally would.
It's not that slow.
Except those are like one room, and this is like a dungeon. And yes, it is that slow. It is exactly that slow. It doesn't look fun.
I mean, to be fair, Ryan, this is the area where you have to stop and wait for the slow moving waves.
Oh no, I'm
to
not
pass
disagreeing
through.
on the stop and wait for stuff part. I'm just talking about.
Why are they so sad? What happened to them to make them so upset
They're
with their state
angry.
in life?
They're not sad. They're angry. You see the
Emotions
eyebrows?
are complicated and can interweave with each other.
You see the eyebrows. They have eyebrows.
They're troubled, okay? Something happened in their lives as storage units that made them clearly very full of anger and sorrow. All right?
Oh, this is a map
Oh.
one, so that means that we don't get a warp out. We have to walk all the way back.
Don't worry about that.
Yay.
It's just one of the interns tried to hide their illegal porn collection, and it scarred them for life.
Oh, they tried to hide. They put their porn inside it. Oh God, man, somebody must have a lot of porn. 'Cause
I
there's
have
like 80
no
of these
idea
things.
why people do this, but some people will actually try to use work computers to store their porn to save space at home. And I'm like, why?
I don't get why people are downloading porn in. It's the year 2019. You should A, know that porn causes viruses, and B, you know that you could get all the free porn you want streaming nowadays anyway. Why are you downloading
probably they're just downloading the stuff that they would otherwise have streamed in order to not constantly be streaming, but that's just what I do with every streamable thing, so like
Don't stream porn, ladies and gentlemen.
I mean,
don't download porn. I mean, jack off responsibly. There we go. That's the best way to
internet
put it.
is for porn.
Okay. But my point was more like, just in a generic sense, I hate streaming video. Like, I don't like doing it with Voodoo, I don't like doing it with... Well, I tolerate it for YouTube to support the creators, but if I had my way, I'd download my YouTube videos too. It's just...
Doesn't YouTube Red let you do that officially, I think?
I think
so,
some
yeah.
of them do.
I think there's at least a music thing for one of the YouTube programs that let you do that. I'm not sure, though.
Yeah, but it's like, yeah, I've got a Netflix subscription. I could watch this stuff on Netflix, and I'm sure that they take like metrics from how much you stream on Netflix to tell how successful they're being. And yeah, so I'm probably screwing that up. But I'd rather just download a copy of the video that I would be watching on Netflix, so that if my
I
internet goes down, I don't get interrupted in the middle of my movie. Thank you.
I do think Netflix does have a download option, at least temporarily, for like airplanes and stuff like that.
I
So
think
I
there's
think you
certain
could.
devices that they'll let you do it on, yeah.